He'll move. Hello, I'd like to bring this Personnel and Human Services Committee to order, January 19th, 2016. Deanne, will you take roll call, please? Here.
Tilly.
Here.
Rancic.
Hello.
Pickett.
There.
Harris.
Lost your voice? Oh, man.
I said we'd be some people very happy.
Okay. All right, before you have the minutes of December 15th, 2015. What is your pleasure?
Support?
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, same sign. At this time, we allow public input at our committee meetings. Any of those wishing to come before the committee and discuss anything, feel free. Don't rush. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to petitions and communications. Under item A, we have the Bay County Sheriff, the Blue Cross Blue Shield contract renewal for the inmate services. Support. Have a motion and support. Any discussion? Other than Commissioner Hare? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same sign. I heard he had a little voice problem. Yeah, you can't talk. Under item B, we have the county executive reorganization and consolidation of responsibilities. So this one, I'd like to see if we can move this one to the full board.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Yes, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we discussed right before the meeting started, I did receive an email today from the Chief Judge, and I will be talking with her about her questions and concerns. And I think I want to make the point that the reason why this proposal has been under discussion and the sense of the board in talking with members of the board as well as with Amber and Tim Quinn is whether we are fulfilling and how best we can fulfill our responsibilities to provide the kind of legal representation that every defendant should have. And the approach that is outlined in this recommendation is the system that we used in Bay County throughout the 90s and before that. And it wasn't until about 2008 there was a decision by the board to take a different course of action. That contract has expired, and again, there's been a lot of discussion, but I will make sure I sit down and talk with the judge.
Yes, Commissioner Tilly.
So did you want this passed like this, or do you want us, is this to refer back to administration till the full board meeting?
I believe that the chairman of the committee would like to have the board refer it to the full board for adoption, and we are comfortable with moving the process along. This is not the first time it's been on the agenda.
So, I just want to get this straight. So, by passing here, we're referring it, or are we passing it and it's going to go to the full board anyways? Okay, all right, as long as we got the schematics down. I'm good.
Yes, Commissioner, we do.
I just had a question about the grant funding from the state. You know, how solid is that? When will we get it? Is that definite? Are they going to back out on us? Or I just wonder where that's at right now.
If I could, Mr. Chair, as Mr. Gick knows, there are the three great lies, and one is that the check is in the mail.
Yep.
And in terms of the legislature following through on what the law says, only time will tell. Because there are instances where they have passed laws and then do not fund it, but there's been a lot of work put into this at the state level, as you know. So only time will tell.
Just wonder if it says shall or may.
I believe it's,
Shall,
Shall, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
for
shell.
what that's worth.
It's a shell game. Yes, Commissioner Krieger.
I'd like to come back to Mr. Redmond. I think he had a comment.
Number one, as far as the grant's concerned, if we don't get the grant, we don't hire the position of, is that social worker?
No, there's a separate grant that's outstanding with regard to an additional social worker as well that would be funded by the state. The grant that he's talking about is the grant funding that's contained within the assigned council statute that basically indicates that retroactively they'll look back and see what changes you had to make in order to comply with the new guidelines. Technically, the state is supposed to pay that.
But
Whether
the
they
way,
do or
the
not.
way we budgeted it, we weren't depending upon the grant.
No, we weren't.
Yeah, I believe we have full funding in the budget for the four positions.
The attorney, yeah.
Anybody else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, under item C, we have the Bay County Fair and Youth Exposition, Ford Bear lease, the Fair Board lease, extension 2016, 17, and 18.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Commissioner Krieger.
Thank you. Kristen, in the past, we had some issues dealing with not being current with the fees for rental. I'm assuming that everything is up to date.
Yes, they are paid in full, so everything is up to date.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bob?
What's different about this request is it's a multiple year, but in our agreement with the Fair Board, I talked to Kristen and Crystal today, we're maintaining the right to ask for financial reports.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under item D, we have Corporation Counsel, the noise ordinance, legal opinion and rescission of current noise ordinance or modification.
Move to receive.
Support.
Okay. At this time, do we want to, Commissioner Krieger?
Back to Amber, you know, when you read it all, and it's kind of patchy. Bottom line is, the only thing the board or the county has any jurisdiction on as far as noise would be basically what goes on in this building, or at the fairgrounds, or at the community center, or at the, let's say, the civic arena.
Or Pinconning Park
Or
Golf Course.
Pinconning. Okay,
And any county-owned or occupied property.
all right. That's the only jurisdiction that we can enforce.
Correct.
The rest of it has to be done by either the city, the township, correct, or village?
Or village that has passed an applicable noise ordinance within the confines of their boundaries.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Coonan?
Have we had any problems on any county properties?
We've not had any problems on county properties that I'm aware of. The reason that this issue came to light was because there were different municipalities within the county requesting the assistance of the prosecutor to prosecute individual business owners that were located in residential areas for exceeding the noise ordinance. And the difficulty becomes we really don't have the jurisdiction to enforce that, and the prosecutor wanted a legal opinion to be able to provide to those constituents to let them know he wasn't just sitting down on the job, but in fact he just didn't have the authority to enforce.
Anyone else?
Over there.
Oh, Tom?
Just quickly, we have received calls in years past with the fairgrounds, but the leases that subsequently were drafted have dealt with those, I think. And that was events that were going past about 10 o'clock. But I can't recall having one in the last couple of years.
No, we haven't. And we would be able to control if we were leasing property out for special events pursuant to the lease, we would be able to impose whatever controls we needed to impose.
Right. That's my notes right here. So at this particular time, what's the board's pleasure? Do we want to modify it or rescind it, or do we want to have further discussion? Commissioner Tilly?
Well, I think we refer it back to corporate counsel and modify the ordinance the way it should be written, and then bring it back to the board for approval.
Do you, corporate counsel, do you have time to do that in the next?
Well, there's no rush, I mean.
3
you know,
weeks.
She gets, this is one that, there's no like, we gotta get to it right this minute,
Right.
but it's
I'm
something
just-
that time could be done.
It's something that we can definitely make sure that we take care of within the next few months.
Okay, so you want to just
I
bring
would
it
not
back
have
to
it for the
us?
next board meeting, but.
No, I'm not asking you to do it the next board,
Right.
meeting. I'm just saying that we refer it back to administration for corporate counsel to modify the ordinance or the documents, whatever it's gonna be that comes back to us. Do you need us to rescind the original document, the original ordinance?
If what you're doing is amending it, what we can do, I believe, is go through the regular process of the ordinance and amend the ordinance to include county-owned or occupied properties as opposed to it being county-wide. So
Okay.
we certainly, I can certainly do that. And we'll make sure that we set it up appropriately in terms of procedure.
I'm comfortable with that.
So do we want to modify our motion to refer it back to
Yes,
administration then?
yep.
Support.
And the support? Any other comments? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, we have item E, Health Director. This is the agreement with Alarium Institute and Michigan Center for Effective IT Adoption.
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Commissioner Coonan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Reading it over, Joel, is this something new, or was this available, has this been available for the past few years?
Well, this was the incentives for electronic health records have been around since the Affordable Care Act was passed. Actually, I think it actually went back to the year before that with the stimulus package that was passed by Congress then. It was primarily geared towards private doctors, private practitioners, but it comes in two packages. One is for those that see a lot of Medicare and those that see a lot of Medicaid. In order for those to meet the threshold of this, you've got to see either a mix of 30% on both sides or 30% of one or the other. Well, we see about 90% of Medicaid at the health department. But you also have to have a software system that has these meaningful use requirements. And in the past, when we purchased the current software that we use, that did not include meaningful use requirements, and we did not have to essentially use them. But now that we've got the university clinic in operation, and that some of these requirements have been rolled out to other areas in the public health departments, this is an opportunity that we can't pass up. And so from this, what will happen is essentially Alterum will come out and do an assessment of our current software system, what we need to comply with the meaningful use requirements under the law, what type of incentives that we're eligible for from the medical director or those practitioners that we employ, and be able to go from there and determine whether or not that, one, we do qualify for these incentives, and then two, what we can do with those.
Did I hear you say that this Alterra is going to do a study and determine if we have the necessary software?
Yes, they'll take a look at our software. They're going to do they're going to do two things. One, they're going to do a complete assessment of our software and see if one meets the meaningful use requirements. In the version that we have right now, I can tell you it does not. There has been talk from the company that they will upgrade to the meaningful use requirements. But they were planning on doing that in November, and that hasn't happened yet. But they will also take a look at the software from a risk assessment standpoint, and make sure that with privacy and concerns that we're meeting everything that we need to meet. Because that's another factor that we want to include on this as well. And if it makes the determination that we can probably find a better product somewhere else, then we probably will come to the board and say we would, we really need to consider getting into software as a result, and then be able to use this incentive money to purchase that software.
So the present company that's providing the software, is it in the contract that they provide upgrades?
They are supposed to. Okay, they do that on a regular basis. They tell us a year in advance we're planning on doing A, B, and C, D. Whether or not that they get A, B, and C, and D done doesn't always happen.
It's not in the contract that we agreed with them?
No.
Commissioner McGee.
Yeah, we've been doing this for several years now. They've had different things they've added every year. There's smoke cessation and weight loss, and now this is the most recent one. And it's really about interacting with your patients electronically, letting them set up appointments, and also you getting back to them on results and stuff. So you have to have a certain percentage of people that you interact electronically. You want to secure your system.
The patient portal would be a thing so people can just log in and get their medical records. One would be, and there's certain elements that do have meaningful use, that do meet that meaningful use requirements. For example, whether or not that you're a smoker, I think there's height and weight requirements, I mean basic essential things. But then there's other elements too, where being able to print out a complete, concise summary of why the visit occurred and what the patient is supposed to do. That currently we can't do that under our current software.
Unless you get fined. Get fined if you don't, or you get a withhold, basically. I mean, you get a bonus if you do, and then eventually there's a withhold from Medicare that if you don't provide like 1%, 2%, whatever it is. So there's an incentive.
Now, right now, we don't see a lot of Medicare folks. We would like to add that on so we can provide services to folks that have Medicare. So whether or not that we would be fined is to be determined. But regardless, there are some issues with the software. We'd like to take a look at that. We'd like to go back to the company and see if they can fix it right away. And if they can't fix it, then we'd like to be able to find what's the best alternative out there.
So this is more than applying for the $140,000 that might be looking at new software.
It very well could be, but it very well could be that we stick with the same software too. It gives the county the flexibility that it needs to have in order to provide effective patient-client visits, or doctor-client, or provider-client visits, and meet those meaningful use requirements as well.
Okay, but if we have them presently providing us with the software and there are upgrades, and they decide that whether they want to give us the upgrades or not, that's not really like a one-way contract, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the thing that we're struggling with right now, is that there are some deficiencies within the software, and we hope to rectify those, including having those meaningful use requirements accessible to us and to patients. But in its fullest extent, it's not available at this point.
But in reading this, it just seemed as though we were getting $140,000. I didn't get that. We have a software program that might not be giving us all the information we need in order to comply with what needs to be done. I don't think that was stated in there, right?
Well, but in its essence, though, what the contract with Alterum is to provide us with meaningful use incentive funds, so that whether or not we do have problems with software, that we qualify for that, and that we can access those resources and those funds. And like I said, if we decide that we're going to stay with our current software provider, we can use that $140,000 to pay for the licensing, where normally that comes out of the health fund or the general fund. It will end up saving the county money rather than having to spend more.
Or I can use it to pay the providers for the extra time they have to spend by doing all this government paperwork. It takes time to enter this data, you know, and somebody has to do it. And most of the time it ends up to be the provider, so putting in their BMI and their weight and then interacting with them on the internet take more time too, so.
Yeah, it can also pay for hardware upgrades as well, if we need to do those. You know, there's a fair amount of old systems that we have that need to be replaced and upgraded too, so.
Commissioner Till.
I'm doing this with my doctor now, and I have access to all my records, and in fact, I met physically yesterday, and he said that if you see anything ever in that document that's not true, you send me a note and we'll remove that. And I think that's pretty cool, because you may end up at a ready-med someplace that has access to the system, and, because not everybody has access to it yet. And they may put in something that, check for diabetes, check for something like this, and they didn't do any of that, and yet they want to bill my insurance company for it, or my doctor then has a question about it, and I can just say, no. I think it's a pretty, again, I'm a tech-savvy guy though, so I like that access. And then also the calendar is coming up in 2 months, we'll be able to do this. His whole calendar will be online, and if he has openings, you can then, like people call and cancel, you can type your name in there with and the reason that you want that appointment at that time, and they'll go by necessity. You know, that if 2 or 3 people put in for that date, and they'll go by necessity, and that person can get that appointment, because he's booked out, like a lot of doctors are, for months at a time. I think it's pretty cool stuff, but again, and it's not as much work as these. When I go in and sit down and talk to him, he's got the computer on right there, does everything right there in the room with me. There's no follow-up afterwards. He doesn't have to have the microphone where he's recording everything he does and then have somebody dictate it for him. It's all right there in the computer, and when he goes home at night, he's pretty much going home at night, which is good for him and a little less work for him at the end of the day. Anyways, my 2 cents.
Anybody else? None.
I asked Tiffany, do county employees have access to their information at the wellness center?
Online, no. They receive a report card printout when they go into their exam, so they don't have online access.
Anybody else? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Under item 2, under the health director, because he's not going very far. We have the agreement with Doctors Plus for credentialing services. What is your,
Motion to approve.
Support.
we have a motion and support? Any discussion?
Should we get credentialed? Whatever you want. Just-
Yes.
So this will help expand the network for a lot of, that's the whole purpose
That's
of
correct.
that I'm reading. Okay.
Any medical provider will tell you that it is a nightmare to do your own credentialing. For example, Debbie probably remembers from 3 years ago when we tried to recertify our roster billing so we can just provide flu and pneumonia shots to Medicare providers. It was 180 days before we got it right.
It was not
You
easy.
get the slightest thing wrong, they send you the entire paperwork back. You have to fill it all out. So,
That's what I read, I guess I, right, thank you.
Commissioner Regan.
Yeah, there's several companies out there. I use CAQH, and it's an online, you put your insurance information, your license information, and then they provide it to all the insurance companies, because there's a lot of insurance companies out there. So it is a good service, and it saves you a lot of time, doing all the paperwork.
Anybody else? Always gotta check this guy. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under item 3, we have agreement with Barbara McGregor for development of protocols of the university clinic. What is your-
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Under item 4, we have the amendment to agreement with Saginaw Valley State University regarding the university clinic. We're seeking the approval of the amendment, authorization of the board chair to sign.
So,
Support.
Motion and support.
Let's take some of that
Any
road.
discussion?
That's just good enough. So,
All in favor?
aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under item F, we have the Personnel Director. We have vacancies, A, under the Health Department, we have a clerk typist. Under B, we have Division on Aging and driver part-time. Item C, under I, we have Sheriff Department Marine Division, 5 supervisors and 25 Marine deputies. Item D is 911 dispatch, central dispatch for a dispatcher, full-time. And E, we have Personnel Department Retirement Administrator, full-time.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, same sign. Under item 2, we have reclassifications for Recreation Coordinator, Health Director, and Finance Officer. I believe we're looking to refer these back to administration.
Support.
So moved.
There you go.
Did you get that switch? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Under item G, we have Court Administrator. This is circuit court positions. We want to refer this forward to the full board.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I don't believe we have any referrals. I don't believe we have any unfinished business. Is there any new business? Anything under miscellaneous that we need to discuss? Any announcements? Here, I thought Vaughn would announce something.
Motion to adjourn, so in order.
Support.
Moved and supported? We are adjourned.